Good morning. My name is Teague Cotton. Our service leader today is Lori Whittemore. We welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Saco and Biddeford. This service is being live streamed and recorded. For those joining us on YouTube, we encourage you to have a candle or chalice to light when we light ours here in a few moments. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we are glad you are here with us today. The theme for the month of June is freedom. We invite you to contemplate this theme with us today and carry it into your daily life when you leave here. Let us welcome the youngest members here today. May we recognize their noises and rustlings as our next generation participates in worship with us. We commit to be co-stewards of this land owned by the Wabanaki Confederation and to work toward a world that is just and thriving for the whole of the web of life. We invite you to take home the order of service for information and announcements, or you may leave it for recycling as you exit the sanctuary. Please silence your cell phones. There will be a social hour in the parish hall after the service. Please join us for conversation and refreshments.
Another announcement I forgot to write down is that we're meeting also after church for sort of an impromptu religious exploration meeting because we have a transition coming, and we're going to meet with Melissa to see how we transition next year to keep our robust program going. So please grab a cup of coffee and join us if you're interested in all in hearing about it or volunteering in any way, shape, or form. So thank you. Please join me in the words to lighting our chalice. This is our sacred promise, to gather together in peace, to seek truth in love, to serve human need, so that all shall grow in harmony with the divine. Good morning. Welcome, beloved community. Together we gather in the spirit of remembrance this morning and gratitude, honoring the foremothers whose courage and wisdom have shaped the path that we walk together. In this sacred space, let our hearts be open to the stories of those who came before us, women who dared to dream, to struggle, to build a better world. Together, let's celebrate not only their lives, but the ways their legacy calls us to act with love and justice and kindness and compassion. May this hour deepen our connection to one another, to our shared heritage, and to the unfolding story that we create together. Welcome. And now join me in singing hymn number 102, We the Heirs of Many Ages. No, now's the time in the service where we turn and greet our neighbor. Neighbor.
I just wanted to say something about this piece. The cellist from Apocalyptica wrote it after attending his grandmother's memorial service. And I am dedicating it to the life of my brother, Danny.
This is the time. This is the time in our service when we invite people to share what is in their hearts, whether it is a great joy or a deep sorrow. It is not a time for announcements or political statements. If you wish, please come forward to light a candle. Tell us your name if you'd like to, and share your joy or sorrow with us if you choose to do so.
Hi, I'm Donna, and I'd like you to keep Betsy in your hearts and prayers. She's having ankle fusion surgery on Tuesday and will be non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. The stressful part for her is that in her previous 2 orthopedic surgeries, she had pulmonary embolisms, and they're doing everything to make sure that doesn't happen again. So keep her in your thoughts.
Hi, my name is Joanna, and I'm here to ask for prayers or just good thoughts that you might have for my cousin Shirley. She is undergoing treatment for breast cancer, and it looks hopeful, but there's always still that sense of fear about it too. So whatever good thought or prayer you can send her way, that's most appreciated. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Diane, and I just lit a happy birthday candle for my grandson, Scott. Scott was, about 34 years old. 33 or 34 years ago was born Marta. And when he was about 16, he announced to the family that he was transitioning and was going to acknowledge the real gender. And we're very, very proud of him.
Good morning, I'm Ellie. I lit a candle this morning for my son, Alex, and his family. The baby turned 6 months old today, and paternity leave has officially ended. So starting this week, everybody's back to work, and the children are doing a combination of being cared for by many family members. It really does take a village. We have them both on Tuesdays, which is a joy and a lot of work. Just thinking about them and the challenges that lay ahead as they navigate this change in their lives.
I am Lori, and I have a joy and a sorrow that this coming weekend I get away with my mom and my sister. My sister's coming from Seattle, and my mom just turned 90. So I'm really excited that we're going to go to a cabin in the woods, and hopefully we're getting her in a kayak because she's loved kayaking. And the sorrow is that she's been officially diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which we've known for a while, and she's just really slipping away.
Hello, I'm Birdie. Birdie, and the candle I lit is for my husband Sam. It is his birthday today. He is, I keep saying 29, but he's 39. And the other joy I thought of when Ellie was speaking is it is a lot of work for grandparents to help with the kids. And my mom, who is here as well, Catherine, has put in a lot of hours with our girls. And we, the parents, appreciate it.
So I'm Lori, and I lit a candle for my family today. I heard Friday morning that my father-in-law, who has been suffering from pretty profound dementia for a long time, had an emergency and was in the emergency room, and it has turned into a comfort measures only end-of-life situation. So we've been sitting vigil around the clock, and hours to days, I guess, but it is a blessing because at this point, there is no quality of life. But with that goes all of the cycles of complicated, we're grateful, we're sad, we're worried, all those things. So for everyone who reached out, thank you, and just keep us in your prayers, and Pete's doing okay. And one of the gifts is that it brought both of my girls home in a way that I've never seen them act as adults, and that's been a real joy. So these moments in family life have a very interesting way of giving you both the sadness and the joy. So thank you.
My name is Teague, and I have a joy to share this morning. Some good friends of mine welcomed a little baby girl into the world yesterday. Her name is Audra, and one of her two moms was on the Saco Pride Planning Committee, and so was unable to attend Saco Pride yesterday because she was in the hospital having a baby. So very, very excited for them and their family. And then I'm going to light one more candle for all of the joys and sorrows left unspoken.
I invite us all to be in the spirit of reverence and reflection. We are grateful to be here this morning in the company of one another, sharing each other's sorrows, sharing each other's joys, buoying each other up, lifting our arms and lips and smiles as we hear the news that is both good. Thank you for the spirit that helps us endure, the spirit that has helped us endure for over 200 years, that comes with us every Sunday morning and reminds us that we are but a legacy of strength and grace. We will not only persevere, but we will thrive in both the good times and the hard times. And we offer thank you. So be it. Of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move shape of justice. Roots hold me close.
Four mothers. They came before us, silent and steady, hands rough with work, hearts already carrying the weight of the future ahead, making sacrifices and decisions so that our tradition could spread. They laughed in kitchens, sang to the night, braided their and our stories and brought them forward into the light. Dreamed in languages, hymns, and traditions sometimes lost, paid for hope at a quiet cost. They stitched together what the world tore apart, gathered the fallen, mended each heart, their memory woven into everything we know, roots that hold firm when hard winds blow off our front door. We walk on the floors their footsteps made, drink from the taps their hands once laid. The world shaped by women who dared to begin. Our foremothers, the church under our skin.
And now stand as you're able and join me in singing hymn number 108. Seated. So for the new folks and visitors today, I hope this will give you a glance of who we are, what our DNA here is, in this building, in this community. What our legacy will hopefully be, well, it will be this, that you have been invited in to share for today, for now, and you have been invited in to weave into this legacy your own legacy of love and grace and hope. And I hope you understand that it is our character here to be radically welcoming, included, invited into the grace that we extend each other. And I hope you paused, and if you haven't, I hope you pause and look at the picture of Esther and Evelyn that's on the table there. Women who created the foundation of this church, and certainly they created the connector that connects the parish hall to here in many ways. Women who shaped many of your experiences here, our experiences here, who inspired some of you who have been around for 30 years or so. The underlying themes and legacy are actually more than just what they did. They worked really hard, they did a lot of things, but the legacy they really left was the grace and the determination and the kindness and the practicality. But above all else, the kindness, because when I ask people about stories about Esther and Evelyn, and some I will include in here, the biggest memory was of their kindness. And that's who we want to be at all times. It's a legacy of kindness that informs us and calls us to this community every Sunday. That's why you come back. I know that is. This morning, as we gather in the gentle light of this community, let us pause to remember that those who walked before us, those who shape us, the foremothers who lived and shaped this ground that now we call home, did so in a bed of kindness. We often think of history as something grand, kings, wars, presidents, inventions, but our truest inheritance is more quietly woven. Our foremothers, those of blood, of spirit, of heart, built a world not with monuments, although this church is a monument, and we'll get to that in a minute, but often more they did with determination and small, faithful acts. Those faithful acts that are continuing into this day, into the coffee hour, into the religious exploration as we speak. They planted and weeded the gardens, metaphorically and literally, around the building. They led religious exploration, RE, took care of children and folks who needed meals. They do that every day here. They folded newsletters before we could send them electronically. So here's a story. Back in the day before widespread computer use, to fold the newsletters and get ready to mail them, there were times when there were hundreds of people here. I don't know if that's true, but there were a lot of people here. All of those newsletters had to be printed on those, those roller copiers and then folded. Do you remember those? I remember them from grade school, the smell. And the women would come in and do that. Esther and Evelyn would do that, and they would do that in their pearls and their Sunday best on the weekdays. That's why I wore my pearls, my mother-in-law's pearls today. It was for Esther and Evelyn. And they'd fold them and get them ready to mail. And somebody shared with me that about 1990, when she joined the church and she wanted to get involved and she was scared to join a committee, she offered to go in and fold newsletters. And she was apprehensive because, she came in young and surly. And she walked in and there were two perfectly coiffed women in their pearls sitting there folding the newsletters. And she thought of her own grandmothers and she felt kind of grateful to be amongst them. But she felt aghast because she was a little hippie-ish, and she felt aghast that she might have been judged. And she, as a person who swore like a sailor, probably still does, having very liberal views, didn't know if she could be the same in front of them, didn't know if she would be accepted. So she made a mental note to behave herself, but sometimes the words slipped out. So the long story short that she shared is she didn't need to worry about Esther and Evelyn. She chatted with them, and they kept folding, and it took over an hour. And somehow they made it seem fun, even in their pearls and their coiffed hair. And she realized, in fact, that they were two of the coolest women she'd ever met, radically liberal, even though they were dressed to the nines. And They didn't even bat an eyelash when she started dropping the words that she was dropping. And she became fast friends with them, and from then on treasured every moment she spent with them for the months and years she was there. She looked at them as mentors, and she said, as someone else said to me, and we'll get to that story, that at that moment in time as a young mother, she wanted to be a church lady, if this is what church ladies look like. So there's your church ladies, and they probably use the same language that was on Saturday Night Live, so keep that in mind. Four mothers who spoke truth in rooms where their voices were not always welcome. Here in the UU Church, women have always been a part of leadership, have always been a part of theology. We're the first to be in the pulpit nationwide. But that's not always the case in society. So four mothers here who took lead positions in the church, in the pulpit, that's a mark of this church. And they also are a testimony to the leadership they took. And dating back to the early days of UU, women's intellect and writing was always welcome. So for those of you who are new and those of you who might not have known that, so I know that while the voices were not always welcomed elsewhere, they were welcome here. But voices were raised by our foremothers here, and certainly still are. We are opinionated here if you're new. They dreamed of futures that they may never see, right? Like that's what a forefather does. They dream and they invest their hearts and souls in futures they have yet to see. They marched, they burned bras, they showed up at legislative hearings and wrote letters, and some of us still do. And we show up here in the building. We stay up all night when the heat's off. We clean the church. We clean the bathrooms. We owe them our remembrance, to speak their names, to share their stories, to view their pictures. Not only the famous women that are in our textbooks, but the forgotten women, the women who organized church fairs, clothing swaps, the women who organized or led religious education, the women who stayed up all night in the church so the pipes don't freeze, the women who organized outreach to the community for food pantries, new Mainers, unhoused folks that lead music ministry, who organize our caring community, that welcome new members into our fold, women who care tirelessly for this building and usher in our new members. This is not to say that there haven't been an equal amount of men who have stepped into those roles, and I don't ever want to say anything about that, because there have been. It's in churches, liberal churches, that you don't always see as many men. You see them here, and they're actively contributing and have through the years. But today, while giving a nod to Esther and Evelyn, I also want to offer a deep bow to those who are now being the living foremothers of the church. They are the women who, amongst some others, were foundational to merging the Unitarian and Universalist Church of Saco, the Unitarian Church of Saco and the Universalist Church of Biddeford. So I'm taking this moment to share a little bit about that history and the backstory of our faith, because it's kind of interesting, actually. The Universalist Church, often called Universalism, is a Christian movement that began in the United States in the late 18th century. And though its theological roots go back thousands of years, at its core, Universalism holds that the belief in universal salvation. So it comes from Christianity, but it believes that salvation is available to all people, regardless of your belief or who you are. And it's the idea that all souls will ultimately be reconciled to God, rejecting there's any concept of eternal damnation. That does not exist for Universalists. It can be traced as early Christian thinkers back to about 1700s. John Murray, an English preacher, is often credited as a founding figure. He immigrated to the U.S. in 1770 and began preaching Universalist theology, emphasizing God's love and salvation for all people. And something that made Universalism very attractive in the early days of the U.S., or before we were even the U.S., is you had circuit riders and you had people who lived far from cities. And so oftentimes when you chartered a town, you needed a church to charter the town. That was part of the way things were organized. A Universalist church, a meeting house, was a place where every Christian could come with their own belief and be welcomed. And so that sort of became part of the fabric of founding colonies, right? Like you could put a church in a colony that everybody was welcome to. And so that's how I feel like Universalism really caught on. It was formally organized in 1793 in Philadelphia. Throughout the 19th century, Universalism spread, especially in New England and the Midwest, as we were manifesting destiny. The church was known for its progressive stances, which, you know, for better or for worse, had a little resistance. And again, it was early to include women in ordination and social reform. Unitarianism, separate from Universalism, has roots in theology in the 2nd century, and that's really the strand that goes far, far back. We've talked about that in church before. And that goes back to the notion that there's not a Trinity, there's not a Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but there's one God, and that's Unitarian, one God. They rejected the doctrine of the Trinity, arguing for the oneness of God, seeing Jesus as a human teacher rather than divine. And this put them at odds with mainstream Christianity early on. They faced persecution, they were killed, and this movement actually grew in Protestantism when there was more tolerance for different thinking, at least partially. So in the 1700s, late 1700s, as America was starting to be birthed, there was a more organized Unitarian congregation. Unitarianism actually came from Eastern Europe, and it came during the Protestant Reformation. It came to America, and it got organized in the 1700s in Congregationalist churches. Like in the way we organize ourselves, Unitarianism used to be more like a meeting house, an intellectual meeting house. Then it became more like a congregational church. We organize ourselves, where the people lead the church here. By the 19th century, American Unitarianism was associated with people like William Ellery Channing, who emphasized reason, conscience, and social justice. Modern Unitarian Universalists formed in 1961 with the merger of the American Unitarian Church and the Universalist Church of America. And it's less focused on specific beliefs about God. It's kind of post-Christian, although Christians are welcomed here. But it's more focused on spiritual freedom, inclusiveness, and ethical living. That's who we are at our core. The tradition values diversity of thought, not singularity of thought. It encourages members to seek their own spiritual truth. One of our principles is we encourage people on their own spiritual journeys. We don't require you have one. We recognize you probably all do, but we're here to encourage you on that. And by the mid-20th century, shrinking membership in liberal religion in general led to a requirement of churches merging. And so Unitarian Universalism was formed, which today is a pluralistic, non-creedal religious community. Universalism's legacy is its emphasis on inclusivity and social justice. The inherent worth and dignity of all people is our first principle. So that's how we came to be on a larger scale. But when the Universalist Church in Biddeford, because they had the Universalist Church on that side of the river, began to shrink, and this church got super small, and we couldn't maintain the building anymore, and we might have even had shutters up, but I couldn't verify that. They started talking in the early 60s about merging, and because this church is deeded to, I think it's part of that whole charter thing, like when Saco formed, this land was deeded for church, cemetery, school. These are still present. We don't own the land, we own the building. So when we were shrinking, we did not have the option of selling the building. So the Universalist Church, which was doing relatively better than we were, had a great parish hall, had a great kitchen, we're rocking it. When we started to merge, they agreed to sell their building and come to this building and fix us up, and to open their hearts and their minds and their theologies to knit together something new. And can you imagine how much sacrifice that took? Those women, Esther and Evelyn, were a part of that. They were the ones meeting late nights, making the sacrifices, figuring out financially how to do this. They sold their building and built the corridor that combines these two buildings. They envisioned the kitchen, they built the kitchen, they turned us into this welcoming, gracious community that could do more than we could do before. They grew us, we grew. We owe them so much gratitude, not the passive gratitude of nostalgia, although that's cool. We owe them our engagement. It's not enough to remember. We must continue their work. Every time we fight for justice, every time we choose compassion over convenience, every time we reach back to lift one another rather than put them down, every time we fight for justice, these are the prayers of our foremothers who made huge sacrifices and whose legacy to all who shared their stories was kindness, not the kitchen. And every time we show up to help somebody at a church fair or a yard sale or help with building maintenance or make meals for someone or serve as an usher or a worship assistant, every time we do that, and every time we choose to live our principles, which for new people are in our hymnal, definitely look at those. Every time we choose to do that when it's hard, we are honoring their legacy. So another share about serving, about Esther and Evelyn, was they served on a ministerial relations committee to support a minister. And somebody who was new in church joined that to get to know what the church was about. And she said that they used to meet in the person's house, and again, the pearls. The woman would have basically a high tea to have the minister and the little committee meet together. And it was probably a way to honor that minister who needed that support. But this parishioner shared a similar thing to the first story I said. She said, what she will remember above all other things was the grace and the kindness lived in those first encounters. And everything that that person did for the church. How it was very clear that this woman lived her values to the core, and that this foremother decided there and then, or this woman now who got to meet, that she also wanted to be a church lady and age like that, learning and living side by side with these foremothers who put kindness at the core. So we owe them a promise that we will become those good ancestors in our time here, that we will plant seeds of love that we will never see blossom. I mean, that's the legacy of life, right? You want to leave the place better than you got here. And we do that through our principles. We do that through kindness and love. That we make space for voices that have yet to be raised. That we add our own verses to those songs without excluding them. The women who keep the sanctuary warm when the outside is cold, who taught and teach children to sing and to pray and to light chalices, to hope, who cook meals for the grieving and the joyful alike, who sat through long meetings and longer nights, making sure that every soul in the church is cared for, giving up quiet for laughter, rest for service, prayers rising like incense for those who can't pray for themselves anymore, who forgave, who forgive, who stitch this place together. They led, and we are grateful that we have a long history of welcoming women in the pulpit. I'm so grateful to live in this time when I can be up here. Their sacrifices are stones in our foundation, and literally that's the case. Walkways. Time given when time was scarce. Time should be given again. Time is scarce now. Love poured out until the cup ran over. Faith held fiercely in the face of doubt. In times when there is exclusion and hate and fear, making this a place of love and welcome at all times. We owe these church mothers more than memory. We owe them our promise to do as they did, to translate ourselves into the future, to lift up, to nurture, to believe, and to make room for new voices at the table that they set long ago. There is a tenderness in remembering the way we cup the memories of those who came before us, holding them close letting their stories warm us like hands around mugs of coffee, one of my favorite things. Someone said, my first memory was when we, Sigma Delta, that was sort of the church guild of women years ago, had begun to prepare for a church event. And this person was brand new, and so it was their first time helping. And they had to have half and half cream for coffee. And Esther and Evelyn knew just how many pads of butters had to be served and what they had to look like, and everything had to be in its place. We have some of those people still, and that's wonderful for those of us who are not like that. But they also had it done in a heartbeat, with smiles on their face, with gratitude for being able to extend that hospitality. And when it was done, they all got together and shared stories, and they loved what they did, and they welcomed new members with open arms and excitement, because that would be the legacy of the church. And every memory that we share is a crossroads, a place where we are invited to choose: do we stay rooted in what has always been here, or do we turn our faces to winds of change? Or do we sit gracefully and figure out how to knit that together? Do we show up? Letting go of the past is not forgetting. It is not betrayal. It is a gentle art of carrying forward what serves us and releasing what no longer does. Our foremothers knew that, even as they stitched and mended and dreamed and built. One Sunday, someone else shared with me, for somebody who had just started 41 years ago here, that they were just sitting up front, and Esther or Evelyn leaned over and said, you know, that American flag up on the chancel only has 48 stars, and it's really greasy, and we don't know how to clean it anymore. And if you guys bought a new flag, I'd help pay for that. And I think at that point she was too not driving, if she ever drove, I don't even know, but she couldn't get out to do it. And they weren't able to do it at the time, but 41 years later, they did buy that flag, and they did it in memory of her. And that's the flag. I believe it has all 50 states. We're not hoping for one with 51 states. Sorry to go political. Change asks us to trust that the floors beneath us, constructed from their labor and love, will continue to hold. It asks us to step forward even when the way is unclear, even when we don't have time on our hands, because the world and our time together is not finished. And there's need for our hands and our hearts and our courage and our kindness and our inclusion. We honor the past not by clinging to it, by letting wisdom guide us forward. As we embrace the unknown, which is always scary, we are inheritors of resilience. That's a testimony in this church. Let us also become the ancestors of possibility here. Time is the most precious currency that we have. I've heard that shared recently. Spent in quiet gestures, unhurried moments, in the labor of hands, the telling of stories, and the way we show up for one another day after day. Our foremothers knew its value. They traded hours for hope, offered their days so the future could open, invested their whole selves in the dream that we might be able to give more to the world. May we spend our time as they did, with intention, with courage, remembering that every minute we have is a seed, in what we choose to nurture together is what will be in these four walls and in the world. And it will become the story of others that they will inherit. So let's hold a moment of gratitude for those foremothers who shaped our lives, those who are shaping our lives today, that their voices may echo in our own. Their hopes will live on through us and what we build next. And that our hands and hearts will extend their welcome and include the voices that come after us. May we walk with humility, knowing we are not alone. May we walk with courage, knowing our foremothers always walk with us. And may we walk with love, weaving our stories into the great tapestry that they began. And may that always be so. When we gather together as a community, we bring the gifts of ourselves, our hearts, our spirits, our time and energy, our talents and skills to support our church and the larger community. We also bring the gift of generosity, giving what we have so the work will continue. As always, half our offering is sent out into the larger community. This month, Pride Month, we support Equality Community Center, which is created safe space for LGBTQI folks, and they're working on building a senior center for LGBTQI seniors. It's fabulous. We're also collecting goods for the unhoused community in Biddeford. If you are watching from home, you can make donations through the Give button at the top of your webpage. Checks can be made out to UUCSB and sent to 60 School Street, Saco, Maine 04072. This morning's offering will now be received. Please share the words for extinguishing our chalice. As we release this flame from its faithful service today, We allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our past, today, tomorrow, and always. And join me in singing hymn number 290, Bring, O Past, Your Honor. Please be seated. As we depart from this sacred gathering, may the courage of our foremothers stir within us. Let their wisdom guide our steps, their resilience shape our dreams, and their love kindle our hope. May we carry forward their unfinished work of grace and justice and kindness, building a world rooted in compassion and dignity for all. Know that the light they kindled now shines in all of us, and may we look for it in each other, and through our lives, it will shine for generations to come. Go forth from this place in gratitude, in strength, and in peace. Blessed be. Our service has now concluded. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're new, please have coffee and introduce yourself. We'd love to meet you. And again, there's a meeting after service for our religious exploration program. Even if you're willing to be a co-facilitator next year for one time or help lead an intergenerational program next year, please stop by and let's talk about what needs to happen. We're so excited to keep it going. Thank you. And please remain seated for the postlude.
And now for something a little different.